Okay, Chair, we're now live. You can start.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome all guests to this remote meeting of the Council. I would like to welcome members of the public and press who may be watching the meeting, which is being broadcast live on YouTube. Firstly, I wish to give a few announcements regarding this meeting. Please be patient, as this is the only second full council meeting of this kind. Please keep your microphones muted unless you're invited to speak, but please keep your cameras turned on. If you wish to speak during the meeting and in debates, please indicate by raising your physical hand so I can see on video. Please remember that I can only see 25 members on my screen at any one time. We'll be moving between screens to see if any member raises their hands, but please be patient and please do not unmute yourself. When I call you to speak, I'll give you a few seconds to unmute yourself so you don't lose your speaking time due to any technological delays. We do have a very full agenda tonight, so I'll be very mindful of the time and length of debate I allow for each item. A meeting order paper, which includes public and member questions and answers, was published online today and also emailed directly to all members. For those watching on YouTube, the full council agenda and supplementary can be accessed via the link on your YouTube page under Show More. For voting, when moving recommendation in a report or a motion, the voting options will appear on each member's screen for 30 seconds. Whilst the electronic vote is being conducted, I will ask any member joining the meeting on the telephone how they intend to vote. And these will be added to those votes electronically cast. I'll then read the results. For, against, and abstentions. Please note the abstain figure read out will include members who did not select any of the voting options during the 30 seconds vote for whatever reason. When we arrive at item 16, members, please note the recommendation is just for noting. On your screen, when the votes are taken, a vote for or agree is simply the formality of noting, acknowledging that the report has come to council. Item 1, apologies for absence. I've received apologies for absence for this evening's meeting from Councillors Joshua Garfield, Tamina Rahman, Mushtaq Mughal, Hanif Abdul Mohit, Lakmini Shah, Councillor Pat Murphy, Aisha Siddiqui, Susan Masters. Are there any other apologies for absence to be recorded, please? Councillor Ken Clark. You are muted, Councillor Clark. You are still muted, I can't hear you.
Yeah.
Can't hear you.
Why is it not unmuted?
Oh, I'm back now.
There we go.
I'm back. Can I do that again? I'm unmuted. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now,
All
Councillor.
right. Thank you, Chair. I'd like to give apologies for Councillor Salim Patel, as everybody knows, is unwell with corona, and I'm sure we all wish him a speedy recovery.
Thank you very much. Please wish him a speedy recovery from all of us. Thank you. Councillor Lester Hudson.
Thank you very much, Chair. Apologies for Councillor Tony Wilson.
Thank you, Councillor Lester Hudson. Any more apologies?
Yeah, apologies for Councillor Tamina Rahman. I'm not sure whether you've announced it, but I thought
I've already said it. Thank you. Thank you very much. All the absences have been recorded. Thank you. Item 2, declaration of interest by show of hands, please. Are there any members wishing to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or other pecuniary or personal interest they may have in any matter which is to be considered in this meeting? Anyone? Okay, thank you. Item 3, minutes of the last meeting. I move as a correct record the minutes of the last ordinary meeting of the council held on the 16th July 2020. Do I have a seconder, please?
Yes, Madam Chair, I'm pleased to second.
Thank you, Deputy Chair. Is that agreed? Let me have a show of hands, please. Is that agreed? Thank you. Item 4, Newham Partners update. There is no speaker for tonight, so we'll go to item 5, announcements by the chair. Announcements by me. On behalf of the whole council, I would like to take a little time to reflect on some of the people we have sadly lost in recent months. In July, Councillor Joe Corbett passed away following a battle with cancer. Joe was a fantastic public servant who represented various Newham wards over 14 years as a councillor between 1994 and 2018. During her time, she held numerous lead member roles, including cabinet member for equalities, chair of the Crime and Disorder Scrutiny Commission, and mayoral advisor for culture. We send our condolences to her family, particularly her husband, Ian, and 2 children. Olufemi Aleshe sadly passed away on the 18th of September. Many in Labour Group will know him as a loyal colleague who was very dedicated to the local community, especially underprivileged children. We send our condolences to his wife and 2 children and mark with sadness that we've lost a great colleague who was respected by everyone and who was a great example to us all. Tonight, we remember Ian Hale, who was the Joint Secretary of Newham District of the National Education Union and taught at Lister School for 32 years. Ian was a true son of the Borough who was born here and attended Rockaby School. Sadly, he had only just retired when he died suddenly in September at just 59. He will be deeply missed. We also remember Fred Jarvis, who was died at age 95, was a distinguished trade unionist who led to National Union of Teachers from 1975 to 1989. Born in West Ham in 1924, Fred also served on the TUC General Council, becoming its president in 1986. During the Second World War, he survived the Normandy landings and was a lifelong West Ham United fan. In 2015, he was awarded a CBE in the New Year's Honours List. He is survived by his 2 children. I'll now ask Council to please hold a minute silence to reflect on lost friends and colleagues and show our respect during this sad time. Thank you to all the council members and officers in attendance. I'd now like to offer the council's congratulations and gratitude to Ajita Sajeev, who was awarded the British Empire Medal for services to the homeless earlier this month. Ajita is the council street population manager and has worked for Newham Council for 30 years. We thank Ajita for her work during the pandemic, when she coordinated efforts across council services, the faith, charity and voluntary sectors to help hundreds of people into safer accommodation, and also for her work beforehand, in which Ajita and their colleagues had already done a lot of work through the Mayor of Newham's rough sweeping task force to get people off the streets and out of tents. Thank you. Announcement by the Mayor. Can I ask the Mayor if she has any announcements, please?
Thank you very much, Councillor Joy Laguda. Colleagues, I'm going to make some important remarks today, given the context that we still find ourselves facing concerning COVID-19, and I wanted to wish you all a good evening and thank the Chair, Councillor Laguda, for chairing this important occasion this evening. I'm going to begin by echoing your words of condolence and remembrance for those colleagues and friends that we have sadly lost in recent times, and they will be deeply missed. And similarly, our absolute thoughts and prayers have been with Councillor Salim Patel, who has also been affected with COVID-19. This is our second full council meeting held virtually since the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic. Like last time, this is in accordance with the necessary measures that we have all been learning to live with, to keep people safe in what continues to be very challenging times. I want to take a moment to remember all those who have lost their lives as a result of this dreadful virus since we last met. The daily figures continue to reveal increases in cases across the country, also here in Newham, which in total have now reached today of some 789,229 cases in total. The rise in death toll now stands at 58,164 people. And we fear that these figures may underestimate the true extent of the crisis that faces us. We must never become desensitized to these figures. Over the past several months, right across the council, we have worked hard in accordance with government guidelines, putting the safety and health of our residents at the front, back and centre of our approach. We have worked to apply the raft of different rules set out by the government, and we are now implementing Tier 2, the high risk level requirements, which came into force in London last Friday at midnight. I welcome this measure, but I have made clear my view that this has been very late and that much more is urgently needed. As cases and now deaths spiral out of control, there is scant evidence of a very serious strategy from government. It is unravelling. That is why I joined many others, including the Mayor of London, in calling for an immediate circuit break lockdown to reduce cases in order to save lives. We need a clear national strategy rooted in the medical evidence, working hand in hand with local leaders and councils to deliver it. We must stop the false counterposition of health versus the economy. The two are intertwined. The evidence shows that countries that have applied stricter public health measures have been able to reduce and better control the virus and have also fared better economically. The current approach is failing to protect both health or the economy. And even the government's own sage advisors set out a month ago the need for a circuit breaker. They also highlighted the impact of the increase that infections would have disproportionately on the poorest communities and on Black and ethnic minority communities specifically, something that we are all acutely aware of here in Newham. Had this been followed then, we may not be in such a concerning situation now. So there is no time for delay in taking action aimed at significantly driving down the level of cases. As well as a circuit breaker, this requires fixing the broken track and trace and isolate system to keep infection rates down. But it also requires significant financial resources to protect the livelihoods of those who are suffering economically. I'm acutely aware of the impact that the virus is having on the livelihoods of residents here in Newham and how people are struggling. Our borough has been amongst the worst affected in London, including in terms of those now claiming benefits due to job losses or those on furlough. So I will continue to press forcefully for an adequate government support, The current offer of 80% of minimum wage is just not enough for anyone to live on, and we must see the extension of the furlough scheme for workers and also for the self-employed. And we absolutely must support those industries particularly affected. And to that end, I was pleased to sign a letter calling for greater support for the hospitality industry earlier this week, to name but one area where people are really struggling. Fundamentally, local authorities such as ours must have greater and adequate national government funding to respond to this crisis. We are already contending with a legacy of chronic underfunding, cuts and austerity. The pandemic has put even greater financial strain on our resources, and we estimate as of the end of the summer, a funding gap of around £20 million as a result of the COVID-19 crisis and responding to it so far. And we will be elaborating more about this at next month's full council meeting. I'd like to finish with these final points. Firstly, I'm especially delighted that at this full council, we are bringing forward plans to develop people power for Newham, including a referendum on our model of governance, which we will discuss later on the agenda. But just to say at the outset that this was one of our key manifesto commitments as an administration. Responding to a crisis such as this pandemic cannot be done without working in true partnership with residents, and deepening democratic participation is absolutely key to that, so that we get this right. And so I'm very excited about the plans and look forward to talking about that later on. Secondly, I want to thank all of those who have been involved with our brilliant programme to mark Black History Month this year, and I hope residents have enjoyed the events that have formed part of it so far. Like everything else, it has been a very different year with many virtual events, but it has also been particularly significant, taking place against the backdrop of the Black Lives Matter resurgence over the summer, and as much needed focus on addressing the structural inequalities and racism in society that still pervades, addressing issues of our history and fighting for justice. And can I commend especially Councillor Shani McLean, Councillor Rohit Dasgupta, and many other councillors who have brought forward all the initiatives and the ideas, including Councillor Winston Vaughan and Councillor James Beckles, who brought forward the motion, which we will be discussing later this evening. The Council has been embarking on our own work to make sure that we are doing all that we can to address these issues, and again, more of that to follow. And finally, we have an important motion on the agenda today, in essence dealing with the need to treat each other with respect and to have zero tolerance of the rising incidences of online bullying and abuse. The motion deals with abuse of elected members in particular, which is of course an absolute affront of democracy and which personally affects many of us. I can speak from my own experience and also of the experience of many members of this council. More broadly, we must all have the right to be afforded respect and decency, whatever disagreements we may have. Racism in all of its forms, Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, misogyny, homophobia, and any form of hatred or discriminatory attacks will not be tolerated, and I restate that pledge. That concludes my remarks, stroke announcements for today, Councillor Joy Laguda. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Item 7, any announcement by the Chief Executive? And I ask if the Chief Executive has got any announcements, please.
I have no announcements to make. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, Chief Executive. Item 8, any updates by Cabinet members? Any member of the Cabinet who wishes to update Council will be allowed to speak for up to 3 minutes. There shall be no debate or questions allowed. Does any member of Cabinet wish to speak?
Yes, Chair.
Well, I can't see anybody.
Rohit Dasgupta.
Oh, Councillor Rohit Dasgupta, please.
Thank you, Chair, and my fellow councillor colleagues. I would like to provide an update on the social integration strategy that I've been working on for the past few months, which will be presented to Cabinet next month. Social integration, as you all know, is about the ties that bring people together, a network of public and private relationships and connections that transform a collection of individuals into a functioning community. It is more than just people getting along, but creating inspiring bonds of trust, reciprocity, and solidarity. Newham is one of the most diverse boroughs in this country, with 48% being born outside the UK, with 72% from BAME backgrounds and 27% non-UK nationals. Newham's diversity is also reflected in its religious preferences and language spoken, the borough boasts of 100 languages spoken. But at the same time, the 2019 Multiple Deprivation Index ranked Newham as the 12th most deprived borough out of 317 local authorities and in the 10% most deprived areas nationally. Our social integration strategy demonstrates the Newham Council has in the last 18 months and going forward, putting people at the heart of what we do in creating a fair and socially inclusive borough through resident engagement, robust partnerships with our voluntary and faith sectors, and breaking down barriers and inequalities faced by our residents for a rich and connected borough. Our approach is based on 4 key principles of relationship, promoting shared experiences, participation that encourages residents to be active in civil society through volunteering and democratic participation, equality for our residents to overcome barriers through upskilling and language support, and finally, evidence to measure and evaluate its impact. The correlation between Newham's social integration strategy and other existing strategies is clear. Our COVID-19 recovery strategy, which makes us the first borough to use health, well-being, and happiness as the measure of our economic success and growth. Our community well-building strategy, which is underpinned by principles of economic, social, and environmental justice. Our democracy and civic participation, which is a beacon of participatory democracy. The health, well-being, and inclusive economy strategy, which are key drivers for economic development and addressing inequalities in the borough. And something I know that my colleagues, Councillor Vaughan and Councillor Beckles is also going to talk about in their motion on the Black Lives Matter. We've seen evidence of social integration through various forums. Our COVID-19 response, which saw more than 108,000 parcels delivered, 354 health champions, and 15,000 prescriptions delivered.
You've got 1 minute, Councillor Dasgupta.
Thank you, Chair. Our strategic action plan to tackle racism and inequality through 4 work streams of Newham as an employer, as a beacon of social change, the best place for children and young people, and as a deliverer of public services. We have a thriving voluntary sector which provided 60,000 meals and supported our residents. There is more to be done. Our strategy is looking at resourcing our community language support provision, exploring options to removing barriers to digital inclusion. We held a borough-wide digital workshop in July. Our arts, culture, and heritage provision through a few hundred arts and culture programs, and community enrichment through our disability, LGBT, Black history, and heritage months. And an interfaith forum to develop interfaith dialogues and critical actions on civil participation of our faith sector. Colleagues, I can go on and on about the work being done in our library services, Head Start, People's Supper, ESOL Group, DOST project, and so on. But due to limitation of time, I shall stop. Newham's ambition to be an innovative, economically and socially progressive borough is unrelenting, given our strategic vision to put people at the heart of everything we do. And although there is no legal obligation for local authorities to adopt a social integration strategy, as you can see, even before the formal adoption of the strategy, we are already taking a bottom-up approach, working on barriers.
We are running out of time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That was very well read. Thank you. Councillor John Gray.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Just to make a very brief announcement about we're starting a 3-month consultation on our new housing strategy and also proposed changes to the allocations policy. Everybody on our waiting list has been sent a survey. It's online. We're meeting up with all local groups and stakeholders. If any organisation wants to have a presentation by myself and Councillor Mohammed, please get in touch. The housing strategy is dealing with supply. Of course, allocations is dealing with how we actually allocate the very limited supply we have in Newham. But we hope it's going to be a fairer and more progressive policy. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor John Gray. Item 9, Overview and Scrutiny Committee Work Programme and Future Commissions. I call upon Councillor Anthony McAlmont as Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee to say anything with regard to broad governance, scrutiny topics, or overview and scrutiny. If so, you have up to 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In brief, I wish to thank scrutiny chairs and all councillors serving on Scrutiny Commission for their ongoing work in the following area: Corona Coronavirus Pandemic. We have a task and finish group, which led by Councillor Danwell Lee Parkru, and based on its substantive evidence gathering session, made recommendations to the executive. Given the ongoing nature of this crisis, this group will continue its work. The Budget Working Party. Overview and Scrutiny Committee has reconvened the Budget Working Party, and it held its first meeting. Given that the budget papers will now be tabled at Cabinet in December, its work timetable will be adjusted appropriately. The Health and Other Social Care Scrutiny Commission held its meeting on the 23rd of September and continue its review into mental health and young people vaccination. The Inner Northeast London Joint Health Overview and Scrutiny Commission held a meeting on the 30th of September and took evidence on the health service response to the coronavirus pandemic, on testing and tracing, and review evidence on overseas patients and charging them for NHS services. The Crime and Antisocial Service and Antisocial Behavior Scrutiny Commission had a meeting last night looking at COVID-19 regulation and enforcement by the police. It has also reviewed the Community Safety Partnership. The Education, Children and Young People Scrutiny Commission looked more closely at the Ofsted inspection monitoring and took evidence from the Mayor and Newham's Children and Young People's Commission on the work being carried out in the Brighter Future Directorate. The Regeneration, Housing and Environment Scrutiny Commission is holding its first meeting since the reconvening of the scrutiny work in October 2020. The Overview and Scrutiny has had 2 sessions looking at children and young people as well as environment and highways budget. Madam Chair, Overview and Scrutiny Committee also decided to scrutinize the Democracy and Civil Participation Commission report. We did this because we recognize that one of the most profound questions we as human beings can ask is how best we live locally with each other. And that is the question the independent commission sought to answer. As scrutiny chair, I know that the former scrutiny arena is the only council structure where elected members and residents can look more closely at the work of the Commission on Democracy. Moreover, it is the only council structure where non-executive member can probe, can ask questions, and through dialogue with experts in the field, form their own independent-minded views. Our scrutiny on the Democracy Commission report is in some important aspect being inconclusive due to work program and reporting misalignments. Ultimately, as a scrutiny function, I wish scrutiny had been more engaged in these developments, and I hope that moving forward, Newham scrutiny will be more formally involved. Thank you.
Let's leave it a couple of seconds, Chair.
Just give me a quick second.
Yeah.
And Councillor Ken Clark.
Okay. Councillor Ken Clark. Oh, Councillor Ken Clark, please.
Thank you, Chair. Question to Councillor McCalmont. Councillor McCalmont, could you explain to me why last week's meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee, it was cancelled at the very last minute? And could you give me your views of that?
In response to Councillor Clark, given the development in another place, also the lack of weakness for one of the crucial question, that is the committee-based system, advice received from the whip's office and the monitoring officer, I deemed it necessary to cancel the meeting.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Well, can I say, I don't think Tony's answered the question.
Okay.
Yeah, can I say, Chair, that I was understood that we had been whipped not to be able to make any decision other than the one that the council Labour group had made.
Chair, I did say given the development in another place, so I expect colleagues would understand where that place is and what development took place.
Shall I leave you and Councillor Ken Clark to sort it out of the meeting?
Okay, Chair. Thank you.
That'd be lovely.
Agreeable, Councillor Ken Clark?
That'd be lovely. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions to Councillor McCalmont? No, thank you. Item 10, there are no deputations this evening. Item 11, petitions. I acknowledge receipt and for noting in the minutes, petitions received from Councillor Nelufa Jahan and Councillor John Whitworth. Councillor Jahan, do you wish to speak?
Yes, I do. Very short. Just to formally introduce the petition which I received from the Dorset Road community residents last week. The petition requests that the council adopts a stricter and stronger enforcement strategy against the antisocial behaviour issues arising from the Shaftesbury Road car park area. The residents local to the area have been forced to tolerate this for many years and now have submitted a petition with the hope that there will be change. I've submitted the details of the petition electronically to the officers in Democratic Services.
Thank you, Councillor Jahan. Councillor Whitworth, do you wish to speak?
Yes, Chair. Thank you. Just to say that I'm presenting a petition on behalf of some of the residents of Napier Road E15 who would like the entry which leads from the street directly into their garden area and the area where their sheds are. They would like that to be fenced off to prevent unwanted intrusions, which are a frequent feature of this area. Thank you.
Thank you. Does any other member have a petition they wish to present to council? Thank you. The Democratic Services have received the petitions and will pass it on to the relevant director for consideration. Item 12, members' questions. I've received 13 questions from members, and these, together with the answers by the mayor or appropriate cabinet member, are stated in the order paper, which was published on our website as a supplementary agenda yesterday, and also emailed to all members. Question 1 is from Councillor Griffiths to Councillor Asa. Councillor Griffiths, do you have a supplementary question? Based on the answer received in relation to question 1. Councillor Griffiths?
No supplementary on question 1, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor Alan Griffiths. Question 2 also from Councillor Griffiths to Councillor Asa. Do you have a supplementary question based on the answers received in relation to question 2, Councillor Griffiths?
Yes, I do on this one, Chair. I'd like to thank Councillor Asser and all the staff who've worked on it for a very thorough and detailed reply, because I've learned some things from it that I didn't know before. But it doesn't include one issue which I discussed with Councillor Asser, which is making information available to cyclists in an easily understood form that tells them where they can go that motorists can't. And I trust that that is on its way and will be appearing before too long.
Councillor Asser, do you wish to respond?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yes, just to pick that up with Councillor Griffiths, just to let you know, we have been doing some mapping of the borough to identify areas where, put it on a red, amber, green basis, where cycling is easy, difficult, hard. Part of that mapping will be then to publish that, and what I'll also look to do is pick up with ward councillors areas where they may have spotted areas for improvement or things that would help in their area. So I will certainly get back to you on the issue you've raised with me outside of the council meeting. And if there are any other ward councillors got any other inputs on this, I will happily receive them so that we can include that as well.
Thank you, Councillor Asser. Question 3 is from Councillor Pepia to the Mayor. Councillor Pepia, do you have a supplementary question based on the answer that you have received?
Thank you, Chair. Firstly, could the member services email all the answers to members? Because certainly I haven't received anything yet, but perhaps I'm the only one. In terms of the actual question itself, thank you that it's going to go to initial position statement about the site in the new year of 2021. As I indicated in my question, I've been waiting a long time for this site to be developed. Is there any chance that it will be starting to be developed by the election in May 2022? Because I fear it might be carried on again in terms of nothing happening.
Okay, thank you very much. Chair, Councillor Luguda, may I respond?
Yes, but the Mayor just said you can respond, yes.
Thank you very much. Councillor Pepia, Quinton Pepia, just for the benefit of other members who may not be appraised of the answer that has been prepared for your question. So you're absolutely right. The site actually was the location of what was then the Burgoyne and Burbidge's chemical factory, built back in 1892. And the factory vacated its site in 1952. And then shortly after that, building extensions to the back end of the main building on the front. And then over the period that you've identified, I'm unaware of the history and the consideration under previous administrations. But you have rightly stated that for some 23 years, you've been promising and promising residents that the site will be owned by the London Borough of Newham, will be developed. So the site, has been identified as a potential part of the Affordable Homes for Newham programme, and that's a programme that's delivering the first tranche of the 1,000 homes at social rent levels that were promised in the manifesto that myself and you stood on back in May 2018. All of those are all on course to be started by March 2022. This site, along with a number of other sites, are currently in the next phase or next wave of sites being identified and pulled together, and it's at what is known as Gateway 1 stage. And so what that means is the council will be undertaking initial feasibility studies to assess the capacity and viability of the site for affordable housing. And as I understand it, the site itself has some pre-existing complexities and could be very challenging. And so officers are working through understanding what the implications of that will be, and subject to the initial position statement that's going to be published in the new year, then we'll be able to make some further determinations around what next. But it's certainly part of a wave 2 bundle of sites that are being considered, but phase 1 already comprises of sites that will meet the manifesto commitment that was set out.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Quinton Pepe, have you got a supplementary?
No, thank you, and thank you for that answer. I realise it's sad it's in wave 2 because I fear that nothing still will happen till May 2022, before May 2022. But anyhow, I hope that I could encourage the Mayor to get it, if we can get it going, that would be great.
Thank you very much. Questions 4 and 5 are from Councillor Shah, but she has given apologies for the meeting, so we'll move to question 6. Six and 7. Councillor Mas Patel, do you have a supplementary question based on the answers you have received? I understand the response has been sent to all members. Councillor Mas Patel?
No further questions. Thank you, Chair.
Is that for both 6 and 7?
I've got an email from the officers, which is question number 5. So I'm not aware of 6 and 7.
Okay, so you don't have any supplementary for 7?
I must apologise. I've got, it says here, question number 5, it says my name and the answer's been given. I'm happy with the answer.
Okay. Question 8 is from Councillor Hudson to Councillor Paul, Terry Paul. Do you have a supplementary based on the answers you have received, Councillor Hudson?
Chair, to be helpful, I was question number 6 and question number 7. I have no supplementary question for question number 6. For question number 7, what are the planned level of post reductions for the fiscal years 21-22 and 22-23? A written answer would suffice to all members of the council. Do you want me to repeat that again?
Yes, please.
Right. In the next 2 fiscal years.
This is question 7, is it?
This is supplementary question for question number 7. For the next 2 fiscal years.
Yes.
I've got to try and work this out now. 21-22 and 22-23. What are the planned level of post reductions that the council intends to make?
Did you receive any
and a written? I understand. Councillor Paul won't be able to give that answer now, but a written response to all councillors will be helpful.
Oh, okay, thank you. I'll ask Councillor Terry Paul to do that. So you don't have a supplementary?
That was my supplementary question for number 7, which was the question was on. I don't think everyone's seen the questions. I don't know. My question was about the level of redundancies that's occurred over the past 2 to 3 years, and my supplementary question was the planned number of redundancies in the next 2 years.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hudson. So you've got another question 9. Maybe we've got them numbered wrongly.
Chair.
That was from Councillor Hudson to Councillor Terry Paul again.
Chair.
Mixed up here.
Chair, I think your numbered questions that you're reading from your sheet are different to the numbered questions which have been emailed through to the councillors, which is leading to an element of confusion.
So both of your questions have been answered then?
Yeah, so we just
Okay, thank you.
Just move on to Councillor Aisha Chowdhury.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hudson.
That's okay, Chair.
Councillor Aisha Chowdhury. Councillor Aisha Chowdhury, do you have a supplementary based on the answers you received?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Again, my questions are number 8 and 9, and I am not sure if my colleagues or publics have seen either the questions or answers. I am happy with my answers, but I do have follow-up question. Is it okay for me to ask?
Sorry about the confusion. Sorry about that.
That's okay. So, shall I ask my follow-up question?
Yes, you can. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. So I would like to say thank you to Councillor Ali and the officers who have prepared the detailed response to my question regarding TV. But I would just like to say that the increase in numbers predates COVID. Therefore, I'm not sure if it is linked, well, if there is any link between COVID and TB. But in addition to that, last 5 years, nearly 21,000 people, high-risk individuals, choose not to attend screening appointments. Another 1,755 individuals who tested positive for latent TB choose not to take up the offer of prophylactic treatment. These 23,000 individuals are those most likely to develop symptomatic TB. My follow-up question is, will the cabinet member, Councillor Ali, in consultation with the Newham CCG and the Health and Wellbeing Board, initiate or invite a call-up program, inviting all those 23,000 people back for screening or treatment as appropriate before winter or as soon as possible? Thank you.
Thank you. Have you received a written response yet?
Yes. May I come in, Chair?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
Chair, may I come in?
Yes, you can come in, Councillor.
Well, thank you very much indeed, Chair, for allowing me to say a few words quickly. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury, for this very important question. Clearly, as you know, this is a very serious issue, and we do want to make sure we're on top of that. And there are many clinical and social factors which have an impact. You quite rightly said COVID-19, and COVID-19 has adversely impacted on our community much more disproportionately. So there are deprivation issues, social conditions, demographic, and indeed movement of people in and out of the borough, which do have an impact on these numbers. And the communication is absolutely critical. And as I said in my response, the health and wellbeing strategy, our 50 steps, this is one of the key elements of that. And we will be working with our partners to make sure the communication strategies are in place to encourage more people to come for screening, and that we deal with the issue. And Councillor Chowdhury, as your chair of the Health Scrutiny Committee, I'll be more than happy to work with you if you add this to your work program, and we can look at this in much more detail. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ali. Councillor Chowdhury, do you have a supplement on what Councillor Ali has just said?
No, thank you, Chair, for that. But I have a supplementary question for my question number 9, which is...
thank you, dear. Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Chowdhury.
Okay, so my follow-up question would be to the...
Aisha Chowdhury, to the Mayor.
That's right.
Have you received any response to your question, please?
Yes, I have a response, and again, I would like to say thank you to the mayor and the officers who have prepared the detailed report. I'm really grateful. My follow-up question is that if I can have the similar response in terms of number of affordable rented accommodation were built in year 2016, 17, 18, and 19, please. Thank you.
Okay, so you haven't got a supplementary, that's just what you're requesting. Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Chowdhury. Councillor Sugar Tekepurai to Councillor Asa. Councillor Sugar, have you got any supplementary? Councillor Sugar?
Hello?
Hello, Councillor Sugar, have you got a supplementary to the answers you have received?
Yes, Chair. I got a supplementary questions. I can't see my questions. I have actually asked 2 questions, and none of them I can see in the printed in the yellow book. But I can see the answer I got just now before the meeting from the email. That is regarding the telephone booths, the dilapidated state and not worthy to use on the high street of the East Ham High Street. So all of us know that our trademark places is the high streets of Newham. And this is very unpleasant scenery. We can see in a very bad state of the telephone booths across the high street. I have pointed out these issues in the first year of my council in 2018, but the answer was given by the cabinet member, Councillor Rachel Tripp, and the same answer as I can get, I got it right now. So my point is that why we can't approach through the local government associations to clear this menace. If they are not,
a supplementary question, Councillor Sugar?
The supplementary question is why we are not using for the local government associations why we are not taking the legal actions against these companies, what they're doing, menacing our high streets.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Asa, do you wish to respond?
Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Thank you, Councillor. I mean, I agree with you. I think we all have identified areas in our own ward where there are phone boxes that are not being maintained properly. There does seem to be a problem with many of these that are no longer used and just being used as advertising slots. And as a result, they're not being cleaned and they're not being maintained properly. It's not just a problem here, it's a problem across London. We're seeking to try and engage. It's mainly BT. There is another company too to engage with them. And I will be raising this as well at the London Council's level to see if there's anything we can do across London wide, working together to pick this up. We are in a difficult position because we don't have power to force them to remove them because they do have a legal requirement to maintain a certain number. But certainly if they are going to have to do that, then there should be some more effort in terms of cleaning and maintenance to make sure they're maintained properly. But I will happily pick up with you outside this meeting if there are any particular problem ones in your ward, and equally if other councils have particular issues, we can pick that up because Councillor Beckles and I are looking into this to try and tackle it. So we can be in touch outside to pick up your specific ward issues as well, because I think the more information we have, the more we might be able to put a bit of pressure on them. But I will pick this up at London level.
Thank you, Councillor Asa.
Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Rachel Tripp to Councillor Asa again, please. Have you received your responses, Councillor Tripp?
I have, yes.
Yes, do you have a supplementary question based on the answer you have received?
Only to say that both me and all of our residents are really grateful to the work that James, Asa and the officers are doing with our first low traffic neighbourhood. And I'd be really keen to be part of the discussion about how we make public all of the data we've got about the impact it's having. That was the point behind the question that I asked, as I think the more transparent we can be, both about the benefits and about any problems and how we're ironing them out, the better the scheme will work.
Thank you, Councillor Tripp. Councillor Asa, do you have anything to respond to that, or you're okay?
Yes, briefly, just to say I'll pass on the thanks to the officers, just to say thank you to the ward councillors who've been engaged, they've been very constructive. We are obviously collecting responses through the Commonplace website, and people are getting responses to that. Residents have been quite constructive in a number of places about changes we can make, and we'll be looking at all those during the order experimental period, and as we roll out further ones, the process will be as we've done already, which will be to engage with ward councillors in advance, make sure there are own schemes, and ensure you're on board with that. So that follow-up work through ward councillors will be quite important too. We want to make sure you're engaged with your residents and able to make sure this works in the local area and improves life for your local residents. So that's an approach we will be taking.
Thank you very much, Councillor Asa. Item 13, questions by the public. We have received 12 questions received from the members of the public. The questions submitted and the answers are those which appear in tonight's order paper. The answers will be emailed to the questionnaires and will appear in the minutes of this meeting. Since members of the public are watching the meeting on YouTube but not present at the meeting, I'll simply ask any member of the cabinet if they have any further thing to add to their already published answers in the order paper, please.
Yes, Chair, if I may just add briefly.
Councillor Asa, have you got something to add to what you have to the reply you gave to the member of the public?
Yes, just obviously a lot of the questions are for me, and a lot do relate to effectively casework issues on road and traffic safety. So we will be picking those up with officers We've already made some progress in talking to residents in certain places to pick up where there have been difficulties. So as some of them do raise kind of concerns within ward about traffic and road safety, we'll be making sure we pick those up and address those issues. So I'm happy to let the answers stand, but just to reassure residents watching where those things are being raised, we're going to look into them and make sure we make some progress in terms of dealing with problems.
Okay, thank you, Councillor. Any other member to reply or anybody? Okay, thank you. Item 15, motions. We now have 4 motions for tonight's meeting, with one on the agenda has now been withdrawn. One of the items, the motions have been withdrawn. The first motion is from Councillor Osei and Jahan. Councillor Osei, please move your motion. You have up to 5 minutes, please.
Thank you, Chair. More than 14,000 residents in our borough, which is just under 5% of the population, live in temporary accommodation, which is the highest figure in England. During this pandemic, I have often thought about what life would be like where I still live in temporary accommodation, 5 of us in a 2-bedroom flat living with cockroaches and damp. Sadly, many of our residents still live in these appalling conditions we would not accept for ourselves. This motion is an opportunity for us to improve this, and our lack of supply should in no way detract from our efforts to ensure all residents, both temporary and permanent, are able to enjoy a similar standard of living. These issues are exacerbated by the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, with the public being urged to stay at home as much as possible, forcing our residents to spend prolonged periods in substandard housing, which has a lasting impact on both their physical and mental health. I would like to thank Councillors Jahan, Gray, Mohammed and Paul for their contributions to this process during the summer months. I hope you can all support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Osei. Councillor Jahan, you have up to 3 minutes if you want to second the motion.
Thank you. No, I have nothing further to add. I believe my colleague covered all the angles. I'd just like to echo everything Councillor Osei has said, and my thanks to our colleagues for contributing. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We now move to the debate. Does any member wish to speak? I've got Councillor Shaban Mohammed.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I welcome the motion. All landlords owe a duty of care to their tenants, and in the borough, where the PRS licensing scheme was introduced, the tenants living in temporary accommodation should be afforded the same rights as those living in private accommodation. That's all I wish to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak? Councillor Nazir Ahmed.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I would like to pay tribute to my fellow colleague, Councillor Larissa Osai, and also Councillor Nilufa Jahan for bringing this important motion. In my humble opinion, Chair, there should be consistency on standard in terms of what we seek to and provide for. I believe the same and similar standard should be applied, be it in private rental licensing scheme or in permanent accommodation or in temporary accommodation. In many temporary accommodation, tenants live for years, often quarter of a decade or even more. Therefore, they can naturally expect the same standard applied for permanent accommodation. With that small note, Chair, I fully endorse this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nazir. Any more members to speak, please?
Chair, can I speak, please?
Yeah, Councillor.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair.
So I can see you.
Can I speak, Chair?
Is it Councillor Sugar?
Yeah. Yes, please.
Yes, I can hear your voice, but I can't see you. Thank you. Yes, you can speak, please. You have only 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Chair. I don't take that much time. I would like to congratulate my colleague councillors for bringing this fantastic motion. Because one of the poorest borough in our country, so we have highest number of the temporary accommodation might be. I'm not, if I'm not wrong. So it is going to be a permanent phenomena in our borough. I have pointed out these issues before the council meetings many times. We should have a permanent arrangements for accommodating the temporary accommodation at the cost of operation of own council accommodation. So that can be economically viable for us to, rather than spending a lot of money on this temporary accommodation. Addition to the sufferings of lack of enough arrangement, quality accommodation cannot be provided by this private temporary accommodation. I think it's a lucrative business for the landlords to offering temporary accommodation for the council. So it is a high time for us to think about building a hostels or hiring a place as we can operate ourselves, because we have a fantastic examples of. We are going to start our Red Door venture rebranded as a popular living. So why we can't have our own mechanism for accommodating or operating the temporary accommodation? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Sugar. Anybody else to speak on this motion, please? Councillor Pushpa Makana.
Thank you, Chair.
3 minutes, yes.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. Thank you for calling for bringing this motion in. My main concern is I understand people are living in the state they're living at this stage. Like we have EPC certificates and a gas certificates and a license. Can't we not council have a policy on a health and safety policy for the landlords as well?
Thank you. Anybody else to speak on this motion? Thank you. I now can call Councillor Say. You have the right of reply. Do you want to say something, Councillor Say?
No, just wanted to thank everyone for their contributions.
Okay, thank you very much.
Chair, I want to speak.
Sorry?
Chair.
Oh, Councillor Zubair, do you want to speak? Because
Yes.
I've already called the right of reply. Do you still want to speak?
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Just I want
Okay, I'll allow you for this time, yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you very much for giving me opportunity. I'm fully supportive for this motion because I can see there's number of the cases were coming in surgery about for the housing issue. So this is very helpful for the local residents get opportunity for this time. Thank you very much for that.
Okay, thank you. Now we'll move to the vote. In a few moments, for those joining us on Zoom, the voting options are for, against, or abstain will appear on your screen. You have 30 seconds to vote. Mr. May, can I ask, do we have any members currently joined by telephone?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Holland.
Shall I ask them?
Yes, I will just.
Okay. So I have 30 seconds to vote.
Chair, I also think
Sorry.
just check whether Councillor Garfield has joined the meeting.
Garfield has joined.
Yeah.
Councillor Garfield.
Yeah, but he did give us apologies.
Is he around? Okay, Councillor Garfield. What is it?
What's it?
Who's? Ask it, Pat, when is it?
Ask Councillor Holland.
Did you want to speak over?
No. It's Councillor Holland.
He's on the phone.
Yeah, can you ask?
Where is he? I can't see him.
That's okay.
Councillor Garfield.
Chair.
Just too far.
Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, Councillor Garfield's just texted me. He's having problems rebooting his computer, but he has said that is voting for the motion.
Okay, thank you. Can you just put 4 for me, please?
So we're unable to, unfortunately, Pat.
You for?
Yeah, 4, yeah.
I am trying to unmute Pat Holland, but I can't.
Oh, do you need to be made?
I
Just can't do it.
Yeah, there's something wrong.
Has everybody voted?
We'll try and keep contact.
Should we?
We're going to close the vote now.
Has Pat Holland voted?
Well, Pat Holland, unfortunately, we're unable to contact her.
Okay, all right.
She is there, but we have problems.
But doesn't be having problems to protect her.
Chair, I haven't been able to vote.
Somebody wasn't able to vote.
Yeah,
Who was that?
Islam, Councillor Islam.
Oh.
How does he vote? It was Councillor
Is he
Islam.
just asking?
How do we
How-
vote?
Did you ask him how he votes? How he
Yes,
votes?
everybody voted, please.
No.
Who is having problem, Councillor Islam? You're having problem to vote.
Yeah, I am having problems. I mean, I haven't got anything on my screen.
Just can tell me what you voted for.
Yeah. So you can just say what?
Say what you, just tell me what you voted for. Is it for, against, or abstain? You're the chief whip.
For.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. The results as follows: 449, against nil, abstaining 1. The motion has been carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Councillor Hussain and Councillor Jahan. The second motion from Councillors Tekepurai and Abdul Mohit. Oh, sorry, it has been withdrawn. Sorry about that. Thank you. Is it the fourth one? Third. The second. Where's the fourth? Third.
See, online.
Oh, yes, of course. Sorry about that. I'm just getting confused with the numbers here. The third motion is from Councillors Mas Patel and Tamina Rahman. Councillor Mas Patel, please move your motion.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Chair. Colleagues, before you today is a motion addressing the online abuse of elected members in Newham. Many of you will be aware of this phenomenon. It's been increasingly prevalent over the last 4 years, and it's got to a stage where it's having a huge impact on members of this council. My colleague in Forest Gate South, Tahmina Rahman, the seconder of this motion, is unable to join us today, but I know personally the impact that she's had on the abuse that's been directed at her. So as a way of catharsis of saying we won't just sit back and take this abuse, this motion is a means whereby we as elected members of this council can say enough is enough. In my experience, there are 3 types of political social media accounts in the borough. The first are accounts by politicians themselves, sharing their views and stories as they go about their business, representing their electors. The second is the political commentator, someone who puts their personal name to the account, gives an opinion on a blog or through social media, and you can contact them, you can interact with them, and they can be a bit rude, they can be a little bit critical, but you can actually interact with them. But this motion is actually aimed at the third type, the anonymous troll, where an individual decides to use the anonymity of social media to hide behind their keyboard and spew their venom at people serving their communities. They swim in the murky world of peddling online hate, vile, nasty, filthy, libelous, and occasionally racist. It's infected our borough's politics for far too long, with one particularly nasty online forum seemingly dedicated to trashing the reputation of Newham's politicians. But it wasn't always like this. When I became a councillor in 2014, this phenomenon had not really got its claws stuck into the politics of the borough. Twitter, Facebook, WhatsApp were mainly used as a means of sharing information and having the occasional debate maybe. But during that time, from 2016 onwards, when internal Labour Party selections were taking place, a plethora of anonymous accounts suddenly sprang up on Twitter and Facebook, including WhatsApp, and began attacking certain councillors and certain Labour members with abuse that over time has become more and more vicious. Scant facts will be extrapolated into total fiction, and an individual will be made a figure of hate completely detached from the reality of what they were trying to do, serve their communities. And sadly, this continues today. Unchecked, unabated, online abuse in Newham of politicians has descended into a pit of hate which no one should have to suffer. And speaking from my own experience, for most of 2017 and during 2018 and 19, the abuse actually crossed over from the online world into my personal world. Men with South Asian and East London Cockneyfied accents would call my mobile phone, making threats to me, violent threats to me and my family, and they seem to know my personal details. They seem to know the names of my family members, and some of them even managed to send disgusting messages to my parents, elderly parents, which were far too graphic for me to mention here. I was even stalked online and received death threats. And the only thing I can ever find as to what I've ever done wrong or what my colleagues have done wrong is to serve in a Newham Labour administration, and for reasons that they say we can't be trusted. And the proliferation of these trolls included even extremist elements who would claim we were traitors to Islam for being, in their words, puppets of Robin Wales that must be gotten rid of at any cost. And it's a point that I ought to emphasize more prominently, because whilst most members of that administration received some form of online abuse, the Muslim members, they got the real venom and abuse for having the temerity to serve in a Labour administration. Colleagues like Councillor Tamina, Salim, Hanif Abdul Mahid, Aisha Chowdhury, and I must mention Forhad and Idris, who are no longer serving on council. And I'll never forget how distraught Salim's family were when his daughter read the vile abuse that came through her, their front letterbox. And they don't stop here. They delve into the realms of racism. They make comments about Gujis, a term which is similar to the P word that was used by the NF in the 70s and 80s to abuse people of South Asian descent. And that's what they do. So I'd like to obviously have contributions from members. I'm pleased that it's been taken very seriously. I know the police are onto these people, and I wait for the day when they get hold of these people and give them the justice that they deserve. Thank you very much, and I'll give way for members. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor Patel. Councillor Winston Vaughan, are you seconding the motion and do you want to speak?
I am indeed, yes. Thank you.
You have 3 minutes as well.
Okay. I think that this motion expresses the type of people who just want to belittle innocent people who have given up their time to represent the people of their constituencies and their wards, and is subjected to this type of behavior. Now, the modern platforms, social media, I think is a wonderful invention. It allows us to communicate without interruption and very quickly indeed. But there are people out there who misuses these platforms for their own ends, to abuse people, to hate people, to send out hate messages. And it is not fair that this should continue. Now, these platforms, in my view, need to be better police, that people who espouses hate should not be allowed to secretly continue to do what they're doing. Now, just think of what this has done to families. Now, Maz and Tamina are my co-councillors in Forest Gate South. I had no idea whatsoever that they were subjected to this type of treatment. And it's unpardonable. And I think something should be done. It should be policed much better. And those people who exposes this type of behavior should be charged with misuse of these platforms. Thank you very much, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Winston Vaughan. I've got the mayor to speak. Do you want to speak last, or shall I get the others to speak, or you want to speak now?
I'm happy to speak before the proposer of the motion does some concluding remarks, and let other people speak first.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. Councillor Paul, Terry Paul.
Thank you. Yes, I do. Thank you, Chair.
Yes, thank you.
I like to support my colleagues who put in this motion, especially for Councillor Patel for his heartfelt and powerful words. And if anybody is under any misapprehension of the impact, all they need to do is look at his words and read the transcript from tonight's debate. And I think there's nothing more really to add, but I was especially moved
Sorry,
by
Councillor Paul, I can't hear you very well at all. Don't know what's happening.
Can you hear me now, Chair?
Yeah, that's a bit better. Thank you.
Thank you. As I will say, Chair, I like to fully support my councillor, Councillor Patel, and the councillor Tamina Rahman and Winston Vaughan for putting this forward. I was especially moved by the words which Councillor Patel said, especially as he displayed the hurt to him, his friends and his family. And I think having, how can I put it, recently seen the impact myself of these online platforms, I think we should all stand next to our councillors and really stamp on this. And also, I think, if I can say, that there are members of the group in the Labour Party who know who these people are. And it's about time we call it out. And like Councillor Vaughan said, I was really taken aback by the comments of Councillor Patel and the impact on him, Tamina, and the other good and honoured colleague you just mentioned. And I think we should stamp this out. This hate and discrimination has no place in our Labour Party. It has no place in society. It's up to us to stamp this out, and I really do my colleagues for bringing this motion together. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Paul. Councillor Rohit Dasgupta.
Thank you so much, Chair. First of all, I just want to say a heartfelt solidarity to Councillor Patel for bringing this. I would also like to speak on this motion tonight. As many of my other colleagues, I've also been a victim of online abuse many times over in the last few years. Unlike some of my other colleagues, I only got elected 18 months ago. And coming from a background in higher education, you know, I'm used to critical debate, I'm used to argument, but what I have experienced as a councillor in the last few months has truly shaken my beliefs. Homophobic insults, racist diatribes, and absolutely defamatory comments have been made and thrown at me, some from comrades in the party and also from a lot of anonymous accounts, which have been specifically set up to intimidate and harass us. Threatening phone calls have been made to my employer, emails have been sent to societies that I belong to, and on more than one occasion, I've considered resigning at the sheer pressure of it all. I've been to the police, I've spoken to monitoring officer, I have considered various forms of counseling and therapy because the horrible toll that this has taken on my mental health. I joined politics because I believe that it is a fundamental vehicle for social change. And there aren't many people like us. And there is something to be said here about the disproportionate abuse and bullying that Black, Asian, minority ethnic, LGBTQ people and women face. And it is a vehicle that is used to drive us out of politics and to take away our voice. As the motion rightly says, no one should suffer in silence. And I commend Councillor Patel for bringing this motion today, which I will be supporting. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Dasgupta. Councillor Aisha Chowdhury. And then Councillor Ken Clark. Councillor Aisha Chowdhury.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to say a huge thank you to my colleague Mas Patel. As councillors, I believe that it is our responsibility to make sure that we protect our the local residents, people who we represent. But then as a councillor, if we are subject of abuse, it is quite difficult. If we cannot protect ourselves, how are we going to be protecting others in the community? Now, there are rules, there are regulations, but then they're in just words, but I would like to make sure that the action is taken appropriately. And I would like to say thank you to my colleague again for bringing this motion, and I would be supporting it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Ken Clark.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Yeah, again, great credit to Mas Patel in making that contribution tonight, which obviously many parts of it were very personal. And I think there's not many people on this Zoom conference tonight who probably hasn't had at some stage or another abuse on social media. I always call them the dogs of war. But one of the things I think which is so damaging, not only to individuals that are sitting here tonight, but basically when we talk about, I heard it just now, about younger people coming into politics. Well, I think this is one of the great dangers of what's going on as well, is that people are being turned off of coming into politics at all different levels. You see it time and time again, and we've heard it again tonight where a young councillor who's obviously got a lot going for him in terms of his commitment is finding it really difficult to continue in these sorts of atmospheres. And it's a great concern to me because basically it is the new people that are coming into politics that would create the future. And basically, if they are being turned off, and I know many of them are, that is a great slur on our democratic processes, not only here in Newham, but right across the country. So well done to Mas bringing this to people's attention tonight, because I think it's very brave when you start talking about your own personal situation. So well done, Mas Patel.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ken Clark. Anybody else to speak before I call the mayor?
Yeah.
Councillor Delphine Jamura.
Can I speak, Chair, please?
And then Councillor Joshua Garfield. Councillor Sugar, did you have your hand up?
Yes, please.
Okay, so it's Councillor Jamura, Councillor Joshua Garfield, and then Councillor Sugar.
Thank you, Chair.
And who else? Councillor Singh as well. Agenda.
So it's Delphine, so you need to.
So Councillor Delphine, you need to unmute yourself, please. We can't hear you. Unmute yourself.
Yes. Is that
It's
better?
normal way this
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now. Thank you.
Okay, yes. I wanted to support this motion, and I think, I'm very, very sorry about what Councillor Patel went through his family and his colleagues. At least he had the strength to put this issue, to bring it to the table, because there are lots of people out there, lots of councillors that are going through these same things, but they do not talk. They keep it to themselves, and it's not really good for our mind. So I'm really happy that this issue is here in the public, so we can all support it and talk about it. I've been through it as well, directly and indirectly through microaggression, and I know what it is about. But I'm very happy that the issue is here today, so we can all vote for us and carry it through and see the end of it. Thank you. That's what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Councillor Tabura. Councillor Singh, Haminda Singh.
Thank you. Thank you. I will be supporting this motion, as I did at another place as well. What I will say, just a few words really. Obviously, somebody who has suffered this, and when it is highlighted, it seems to be pushed away. Even when the party ourselves is investigating, nothing happens. It's still ongoing. Those people who are actually carrying this out are still allowed back into their party, whatever party they belong to. And recently, we've had other cases coming forward. And again, I hope not just the administration, the Labour Party, who we belong for many years, takes this on board. I myself have been waiting for an outcome for nearly 2 years now. And where is it? Just been kicked into the long grass, and that's the end of it. I hope somebody takes this seriously and is actually addressed and not just overlooked over and over again. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Nazir.
Thank you, Chair. I fully support the motion brought by Councillor Patel and seconded by Councillor Winston Vaughan. Madam Chair, in a democracy, debates, discussion and disagreement are not only allowed but actively encouraged. In politics and political arena, there would of course be fight, but that fight must not be of muscle abuse or intimidation. Rather, those fights must be based on principle, ideology, giving priority over the interest of the people and nothing else.
Thank you.
British democracy.
Sugar.
I haven't finished yet.
Chair, thank you, Chair, for calling me to speak. Actually, my solidarity with the Councillor Mas Patel and other colleagues and Councillor Rohit Dasgupta. It is very shocking to hear this situation. It is just appraisal of what is happening, where we are working, what hostile environment and intolerant. And we need to address these issues very seriously. It is very shocking for me to know that the young people and eldest people of their families being subjected to such a shocking abuse by the online users. So we should address these issues. We cannot live like this. I completely agree with my colleagues, Councillor Nazir and Councillor Rohit Dasgupta, who observed about the politics is not about spreading the hostile and the hatred. It is a arena for the discussion and debate. We should. It is also lack of our teaching going down to the people what is politics and what is democracy in the 21st century, which should be more tolerant and welcome to the younger generation. So I think the council should, as we are a collective body and the major political parties of this players of major political party of this local government, should take an active role. I think the councillor report, just like people, they know that they should bring their names and shame them, and then even they should be reported to the police. We cannot just pass these issues like this and just for pleasure of talking. We should take action firmly within the legal and the morally. Thank you, councillors.
Yeah, thank you, Councillor Sugar. There's a lot of councillors who want to speak. We are short of time. So I'm going to give it about 2 minutes or less than that for each person. The next one is Councillor Garfield.
Thank you, Chair. I'll cut my speech short so it's under 2 minutes. Social media has affected our democracy in a horrible way. The use of social media to troll, harass, target, and lambast politicians or representatives has made politics less appealing to women, young people, ethnic minorities, LGBT plus people, and those largely underrepresented in our democratic institutions, whom we should be encouraging above and beyond to stand for election. Often the positive.
Sorry, I cut you there, sorry.
Okay, I'm using the 2 minutes, Chair, if that's okay. Often the positive ability to use social media in campaigning and connecting communities has been eclipsed by its more sinister nature. But closer to home, I'm speaking to full council here as this chamber's and this borough's only Jewish representative. I have seen Jewish members of the Labour Party bullied out of all political involvement, and I've personally received anti-Semitic abuse from people in this borough who wish to see my voice silenced and my engagement stilled. I've told them in no uncertain terms, time and time again, that this will never happen. But nobody should have to embattle this behaviour day in, day out, as they seek to serve their community and improve their local authority in this chamber. I've spoken at some length with the motion proposer, Councillor Patel, about why some people need the safety of anonymity when they use social media. But we're in agreement that when members of this or any other chamber are targeted with aggressive and hostile bullying online, it is the social media company's responsibility to disclose the information of that user. Ultimately, there is far too much toxicity in local politics to stand by while members are abused in this way. So I'll be supporting this motion, and I thank Councillor Patel for bringing it to this meeting. I'd now like to move to a vote.
Thank you, Councillor Garfield. Councillor Zubair Kulamasser. I'm just giving people 1 minute because a lot of people want to speak on this motion. I still got the mayor to round up.
Okay, Councillor Garfield's asked to move to the vote.
Sorry?
Councillor Garfield proposed that we move to the vote.
Yes, but you see, the thing is, he has already spoken, so I'm giving everybody 1 minute to just say something quick. I've got about
Chair, I moved to the vote at the end of my speech.
Yes, I know you moved to the vote, but me as a chair, I think we still need to hear a few more people. Very controversial motion this is, and we need to give people a chance. Thank you, Councillor Zubair. Just said 1 minute for everyone. They still got 3 people to speak. Sorry, Councillor Garfield. People really are very passionate about this motion. Councillor Zubair? Just 1 minute, please. Can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I don't take longer. Just I want to edit. Thank you very much for the. I'm supporting for the this motion for the my colleague Mas Patel. I want to add some bullet point because this has happened to me about a few months ago. Is like I'm a local councillor for the ward. I'm doing for a case worker and I case work with the residents. And what happened? The residents is bullying with my parents a few months ago and plus my brothers as well. So I already report for the deputy mayor as well, for John Gray as well. And this is we are walking in the street, people unrespectful when we are walking in the street as well. So there is no safe for us. We try to help for the resident what exactly issue. So this has happened to me a few months ago. I've been under pressure as well. So I'd like to fully support for the bringing mass to this motion. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Councillor Brescia, and then the mayor, and that's it. Councillor Brescia, please.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say I fully support this motion, and I believe that the councillors would be best to show their support for this motion in a vote. So I'd like to move to the vote, please.
Okay, thank you. That's got the mayor to round up. Thank you.
Chair, I'm going to defer my comments. I've already mentioned something in my opening remarks.
Thank you.
Chair, could I just finish? Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you for. Yeah, sorry. I think it's very important for me to say at this moment in time that I have with me a poster made about Tahmina that was circulated just 2-3 weeks ago. And it's the same people, it's the same characters, it's the same same websites. And I'll tell you, Josh, you have my full support and solidarity, brother. Yeah, solidarity to you. We are with you. Don't ever feel that you're on your own, brother. We're with you. And we should all stand with that Jewish member of this council, that we are not going to be cowed by the cowards who hide behind social media because they can't front their words. Solidarity, brother. That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Councillor Patel. Now we have to move to the vote. In a few moments, for those joining us on Zoom, the voting options of for, against, or abstain will appear on your screen. You have 30 seconds to vote. Mr. May, can I ask, do we have any members currently joined on the telephone, by telephone?
We will try to raise Pat Holland again and see if she answers.
Oh, okay, thank you.
We might not be able to, so I'll just unmute.
You can't get through.
Ask.
Huh?
Ask.
Who?
Pat Holland.
Pat Holland.
Pat Holland there. Councillor Holland?
Is she there?
Unfortunately, you're appearing on the telephone, but unfortunately, I can't unmute you. If you can try *6 on your telephone pad, it may work.
Has everybody voted?
Yes.
Thank you. Just waiting for Councillor Pat Holland.
If anybody has any difficulty voting, can you just wave and we'll take your vote verbally? Can you keep moving the screen?
Yes. I think everybody seems to be okay. Has she answered?
Everyone has voted.
Okay, thank you. The motion has been carried, 49-4, nil abstention, and no against and 1 abstention. Thank you very much. The motion has been carried. Thank you. Now, the fourth motion on the published agenda is from Councillor Vaughan and Beckles. Councillor Vaughan, please move your motion. You have up to 3 minutes, I think, because we are running out of time.
Thank you very much, Chair. This month in our country, we celebrate Black History Month. In the United States of America, this event is celebrated in the month of February. Why do we have to do this? In both countries, we make up the minority of the population. In both countries, we are treated as the underclasses. In both countries, we are subjected to racism, discrimination, and in both societies, we are more likely to be treated less favorably by police action. Black History Month came about to celebrate the achievements of Black individuals that have enriched the world from traffic lights to the advancement in medical science. Black Lives Matter as a movement re-emerged in May this year after the murder of George Floyd by a police officer in America, and has been taken up by many countries across the world. In the UK, before the start of every Premier football game, players and officials adopt the position of take the knee in support of Black Lives Matter. This motion states, Chair, Newham Council commits to being an anti-racist organization, one that does not just tackle inequality, but actively fights racism in the borough. The council resolves to publish an anti-racism and disproportionality program of work from across council services in one publicly available report, and asks its partners and anchor institutions to pledge their commitment to anti-racism in the borough.
You've got 1 minute, Councillor Vaughan.
Further strengthen the partnership between council and young people to hold local police to account, such as support the creation of the Youth IAG and the work with them to take forward the recommendations of the Newham Youth Safety Board and campaign for policing by consent. Provide guidance and tools to schools to create a diverse and anti-racist curriculum that educates children and young people on Britain's role in empire, upholding system racism and our borough's local diverse history. Better reflected its diversity and anti-racist history in the borough's public realm. Improve the diversity of the senior leadership of the council, building on efforts currently made and work with partners to improve diversity across the public sector. Lobby for an independent inquiry into the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic and whether their actions helped or hindered the protection of Newham's Black communities. Engaged with any future government commission on racism in the UK, but also resolved to lobby the government to implement outstanding recommendations in the Lamb Review of 2017, the Dame Angeloni Report of 2017, the Windrush Lessons Learned Review 2018, the McGregor-Smith Review 2017, and the Black Faces Report 19. You said 3 minutes, Chair.
No, I didn't.
That's not 3 minutes.
Is it not? We are counting it is 3 minutes.
Can I continue?
Just wind up, just the last sentence, please. A lot of people want to speak and we haven't got the time, please.
Okay, I'll cut it a bit. Well, Newham acknowledges that while it has a good track record of fighting for equality, it can always do more. This track record includes an annual program of events for Black History Month, including well-attended events across the borough and its libraries. Champion and campaign against the injustices faced by the Windrush generation and passing the Windrush motion, accepting the Youth Safety Board report and its recommendations. Newham Council believes the early progress made by the police on implementing the McPherson recommendations 20 years ago have been seriously hampered, and measures to transform the attitude of police towards race relations and improve accountability have not gone far enough. I therefore move.
Thank you, Councillor Fowler. Thank you. Councillor Beckles, are you going to second the motion?
Yes, Chair. Yes, Chair, I will second the motion.
2 minutes, because there's a lot of people who want to speak and we haven't got enough time.
Thank you, Chair. I want to thank Councillor Vaughan for bringing this motion to full council. Black History Month is a point in time for us to reflect on Black history and make a comment on the incremental change that will promote inclusivity, diversity, and anti-racist agenda. Newham Council is at the heart of our borough, and although we may make these commitments here, we do so knowing that the tragic death of George Floyd in Minnesota on the 25th of May, 2020 happened, but can happen here. The UK is not immune from racism. It's not immune from injustice. And that explains the groundswell of support for the Black Lives Matter uprisings. Therefore, it is incumbent on us as councillors from all backgrounds, from all demographics and all ages, and this organisation as a council, as an anchor institution, to speak up for those in our borough who do not have a voice, to hold to account our partners, both statutory and voluntary, and work tirelessly to address racial disparities in the criminal justice system, employment, education, and health, both physical and mental. We know the statistics are dire, especially when you look at incarceration, unemployment, educational attainment, and the impact of mental health illnesses. As a council, we can't solve every problem, but we can have a massive influence in the lives of our residents. But statistics alone shouldn't deter us from acknowledging the challenges, but doing more and building on the successes we have made. We have a proud history, but we have an even bigger and brighter future ahead of us. That is why, Chair and colleagues, I am pleased to second this motion.
Thank you very much, Councillor Beckles. I've got 3 more people to speak. Please, can you speak, if you have spoken before, please, can you just do a quick sentence? Councillor McLean didn't speak before, so Councillor McLean. Councillor Charlene McLean.
Hi, good evening, Chair. I wasn't going to speak, so I know that time is quite short, so I'll just read a little of what I prepared. So as part of my portfolio under the umbrella of Newham Unlocked, we have delivered a vibrant Black History Month programme, which has gone from strength to strength over the past 3 years. And this year's theme is strength, courage and determination, which is particularly fitting, seeing as where we are as a people globally. And so Newham Black History Month 2020 was launched with a thought-provoking discussion with David Olusoga, and I'm proud that we were able to share such an eminent speaker with our diverse communities here in Newham. There was loads more to say, but in the interest of time, I'll just leave it there. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Roy. Just look up, please. You have spoken before. Can you just be quick, please? Just try to give people who haven't spoken before.
I have nothing to say.
Sorry?
Sir, I have nothing to say on the...
Oh, you have nothing to say. Thank you. Councillor McCormick, 1 minute or 2 minutes max.
The now famous...
Can you unmute yourself?
I have, thank you. The now famous saying, "Get your knees off our neck," brought a lump to my throat at the time. And as I reflect further, I have come to realize that the knees of social biases and racial inequalities continue to press us into relative poverty, ill health, and economic deprivation. Madam Chair, indeed, Black Lives Matter. Our lives matter, but not only in respect of police brutality and all racial motivated violence against us. Our lives also matter in respect of our economic well-being, good health, and social justice. Today, my contribution to this debate seeks to highlight economic, racial, and health inequality, which I deem to be equally as important for Black Britain. Madam Chair, the Windrush scandal that resulted from the UK government attempts to cut illegal immigration penalized Caribbean nationals who arrived in the UK before 1973. This is a striking example of racial bias and the denial of legal rights. This was so because
You've only got 1 minute, Councillor.
As dear Chiyomi said, race encoded as foreign. She said, when we talk about issues like immigration, like they are neutral, is disingenuous. I agree when she said that race and citizenship are closely intertwined. So immigration policies have everything to do with equality obligations. Madam Chair, the racial inequalities are sometimes given legal and judicial cover, even to the extent of becoming government policy, as in the case of the Windrush policy of the May government. In this case, Black people were treated as criminals, and most of them were helpless and had no recourse because the law and government policy said they were criminals.
Can you wind up, Councillor McCormick? I still got 2 more people to speak, please.
I have a lot more to say, but because of time, Madam Chair, I would end it there.
Okay, thank you. There's Councillor Pushpa McFarlane and then Councillor Neil Wilson, and that's it. And then I'll go back to Councillor Vaughan to have a right of reply, and that's it. No,
thank you, Chair.
That's enough. You have spoken before. Thank you, dear.
Thank you, Chair. I would like to say Black history is a British history, and it should be taught in the schools all year round, not just in October.
Oh, thank you very much. Councillor Neil Wilson.
Yes, very briefly, totally support the motion, totally agree with Pushpa. It's already on the cards that we should look at the curriculum and the governing bodies that I'm involved in, that there's a far more representative curriculum. Agree with my colleague, Councillor Beckles, about the overrepresentation within the criminal justice system. And as your mental health champion, the very important issue of male suicides that are disproportionately among Black African, Caribbean and Black African communities. I think we've got a hell of a long way to go. And I think it's important that I support this motion along with all those who have been on this council for a long time, trying to move this agenda forward. There's a lot of work still to do on this. We are an inherently racist society based, I think, inherently upon our imperial past. We need to look at ourselves and we need to join arms across as an internationalist institution in our own political nature, but also amongst ourselves.
Now I'll have Councillor Vaughan to have a right of reply, but you know, Councillor Vaughan, I'm giving you 1 minute, please.
Well, thank you very much. I wouldn't take that 1 minute up, but thank you very much. I am very grateful for those who supported the motion. I think it's an important motion. We've been discussing this for many, many years now, and we seem not to be moving forward as far as we should be, and that's what the motion states. I'm also grateful to Councillor McAlmont to raising the economic disparity that exists, the Windrush bias, and the government policy, which needs to be looked at as well. And also, Pushpa, I think you're quite right that this is something which should be on the school's curriculum. And we're reminded of the justice system as well, which does not, in many cases, act fairly to ethnic minorities. And thanks to Neil Wilson for raising the issues that exist in our society. And thank you all very much for supporting.
Thank you very much for all your contributions.
I think it's important.
Let's talk. Thank you. Now we go to the vote. A few minutes for those joining us on Zoom. The voting options is for, against, or abstain will appear on your screen. You have 30 seconds to vote. Mr. May, can I ask, do we have any members currently joined by telephone?
Oh, we do, but
yeah, okay, thank you. 30 seconds to vote. Has everybody voted?
Yeah, understand.
We extend it.
I think, yeah, Councillor Islam. If you ask Councillor Islam, wait till the end of the vote.
Thank you very much. I think I'll ask Councillor Islam now to propose the. Oh, yes. Sorry. Yes. No, I want to go.
Chair, am I allowed to speak?
Yeah, just wait a bit. Let me just announce the results.
Sure.
The results as follows: for 48, against 0, and abstain 2. The motion has been carried. Before I go any further, can I ask Councillor Islam to propose the extension of the standing orders?
Thank you, Chair. I was going to move standing orders to 9:30 if that's accepted by this meeting.
Thank you. Any seconder?
Agree. I can second.
Oh, there's so many seconders. Okay, thank you. Now, we need to go to vote. All those agree?
Agree.
All of them agree?
Yeah.
Agreed. Oh, yeah, at home, that's why you're all agree.
Unanimous.
Yeah, thank you. So it's unanimous, thank you. So now we extend the standing order up to 9:30. Right, the final motion is from Councillors Guana and Whitwell. Councillor Guana, please move your motion. You have up to 5 minutes. Well, I think 3 minutes.
I will do very short. Here are an estimated 6,000 to 10,000 people in Latin America living in Newham. This British Borough.
I can't hear you, Councillor Guana. Are you unmuted?
No, it's just a poll line.
Oh. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah, I can hear you a little bit now.
Okay, thank you. Here are an estimated 6,000 to 10,000 people of Latin American origin living in Newham. It is British Borough.
Very difficult to hear you.
And what I would do?
I think, Councillor, you need to speak close to your mic here. When you're reading, I think you are keeping away from. When you're coming close to the mic, it can be audible.
Okay, here. You can
yes, that's great. That's great.
Okay, I will be like current. Recognition of Latin American already exists in the boroughs of Lambeth and Sada, while initiatives already underway for this status to establish in the City of London, Hammersmith, Redbridge, and Tower Hamlets. I believe Newham is not a borough to be left behind when it comes to inclusion. This motion therefore calls upon the Council to recognize Latin Americans as a formal category of any origin. Latin America extends from the Rio Grande to Argentina Pampas. We are 650 million inhabitants in 22,000 square kilometers. Newham is an example of diversity and inclusion. We are creating a space for everyone in this borough. I'm sure we are making history in the United Kingdom. I ask you then to support this motion to recognize Latin America as official category of any origin. I give that short. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Guana. Councillor Whitworth,
Yes, thank you, Chair.
you want to second the motion and speak for
I
2
will
minutes?
second. I will second the motion. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Whitworth.
Latin Americans are a distinct group of people. Although they come from different countries, they share a similar history, culture, and language. They now represent between 2 and 3% of Newham's population. So I'm seconding this motion because I believe such a relatively numerous group of people with a shared identity should no longer be simply classed as other in our official statistics. British people's knowledge of Latin Americans comes largely through popular culture, some of it quite stereotypical. Though most of you will remember exactly 10 years ago, seeing a close-up picture of a group of real-life individuals. The whole world watched the drama of the rescue of 33 miners trapped underground in the San Jose copper and gold mine in Chile for 10 weeks before being rescued. We became aware then not only of the courage and resilience of these miners, but also of the hardship and poverty experienced by the majority of Latin Americans, which causes so many of them to leave home to seek a better life in the USA and Europe. Latin Americans are not very well known to us as fellow residents and neighbours in Newham, but official recognition should not only help us to get to know them better, but also to be more sensitive to their needs and to be more effective in embracing them as part of our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Whitworth. Now I move to the debate. Anybody wants to speak?
No. Let's move to the right of reply.
Thank you. I think there's nobody. Now we move to the vote.
The right of reply.
Oh, sorry, right of reply, Councillor Benzica.
Chair, I want to speak, Chair, please.
We'll move to the right of reply.
Oh, Councillor Sugar, you want to speak now when I've just called Councillor Benzica?
Thank you.
Yes, okay, quickly, Councillor Sugar, please.
Thank you, Chair. Fantastic motion. Congratulations for our colleague Belgica and John Whitworth. I really salute the resilience of the Latin American people. It should be a good reward to them to implement this motion what they are requesting. Thank you for moving this motion and support this motion. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Belzica, can you have right of reply, please?
Okay.
I hope we can hear you better this time.
Yeah, I hope so. Thank you, everyone. I hope they can support this motion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we move to the vote. For those joining us on the Zoom, the voting options of for, against, or abstain will appear on your screen. You have 30 seconds to vote. And the party is there to vote on her phone.
For? Chair, I guess in for?
Yeah, for.
I'm trying to unmute Pat Hall and it's just not working. I believe she's listening into the.
Exactly.
Just scroll it over so we can just see.
Has everyone been able to vote?
That's what just went.
Are they voting? Has everybody voted?
Or anyone got any issues?
Need to go home.
No, everybody's fine.
Thank you.
No, Howard, sorry, you're not holding on there. You've only got 45.
I've got 45.
We've only got 45 votes.
We've only got 45 votes. Who hasn't voted, please?
46. So we've got one abstain. Right, so we've probably got it.
Okay.
Yes, we've got for 46, against nil, and abstention 2. The motion has been carried. Thank you very much, everybody, for your contribution. Item 16, Report of the Newham Democracy and Civic Participation Commission, report for noting. Mayor Fias, please, can you move to the recommendations, please? Sorry.
Thank you very much, Chair. And just subject to the seconder, Councillor Sashita Gupta, making comments that she wishes to express, I would like to thereafter move directly to the recommendation, which is simply just to note the report.
Okay, thank you.
Can I bring a point of order, please, Chair?
Sorry, Councillor Gray, I didn't hear you.
I would like to move a point of order to extend time until 9:30.
I think we're done already.
Oh, it's been done.
So it's been done, Councillor Gray.
Just that.
You missed that one. Okay.
Councillor, you need a coffee.
Sorry, Madam Mayor, have you finished? Sorry, I got a bit confused there. Do you want Councillor Sasha Dasgupta to speak now?
If she would like to make some comments.
Sorry.
I'd like to second noting the report and just sort of emphasise with councillor colleagues that we are voting to note a report that's not specifically an endorsement or otherwise of the content, just to simply note it and move to the vote.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any member wish to speak?
Well, it's up to you if they want to move to the vote. No.
You've only got a few minutes to speak. Any member wish to speak?
No, so you just need to move
No,
to the vote.
thank you. We just move straight to the vote. In a few moments, for those joining us on Zoom, the voting options of for, against, or abstain will appear on your screen. You have 30 seconds to vote. And then it's start voting.
You've got your note down.
This is just for noting.
Yep. Yeah.
Has everybody voted?
Yeah, I think we finished now. If they've left the meeting, then they're not abstention. Well, we need to check on that. We're just checking if any member has left the meeting because the number of votes has gone down. It would be helpful if a member is about to leave the meeting to announce that, so we can then take you off the total that we're looking for, because otherwise it's counted as an abstention. Can you scroll across? That's try and count.
I've got 44, against 0, and abstentions 3. The report has been noted. Thank you. Now, item 17, proposals for a governance referendum. I'll first call on the Chief Executive, Althea Lodrick, to read out a statement to all members. Please, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm providing an advice note on behalf of the Chief Executive, myself and the Monitoring Officer to provide additional information in respect of item 17 and our advice on its implications for the consideration of the item. On Monday, the 19th of October, the Council received an application for a judicial review from Democracy Newham Limited, the company behind the petition, of the Council's decision on the 24th of September that the petition was invalidly presented to the Council. The application for judicial review seeks to overturn that decision. The Council made its decision to comply with amendments made by regulations under the Coronavirus Act 2020 that required the Council to invalidate the petition because it was received between the 16th of March 2020 and the 5th of May 2021. All members received an advice note about this decision on the 24th of September. The current position in the legal claim is as follows. Most importantly, and contrary to anything you may have seen on social media or otherwise, the High Court has made no decision on the merits of the application or the Council's decision of the 24th of September. On Friday the 16th, the claimant, Democracy Newham Limited, applied to the High Court seeking an emergency injunction to require the Council to validate the petition, but also to prevent full Council from making a decision on item 17, the decision to hold a governance referendum at this meeting. However, after correspondence between the Council and the claimant's solicitors, the application was withdrawn. Yesterday, the High Court made directions about the timetable for the progress of the case. This is a standard procedure and, for members' information, the Court ordered dates for the Council to service its defence and at an initial hearing whether or not to grant permission for the claim to go forward to take place as soon as possible after the 10th of November. Any application for judicial review requires permission to be heard at a full hearing. Both the Council and claimant agree that the matter should be heard quickly or expedited, but this is a court decision. Both the claimant and Council have agreed that the case should be heard as quickly as possible, and a judge has indicated that he agrees with that view, but no formal court decision has been made. Hopefully the hearing will take place in November, but due to the demands on the courts, it may be December. So implications for the Council's decision on a governance resolution as follows. Most importantly, it is a decision for councillors to determine their course. It is a decision for councillors to determine their course of action. Our advice is that A, a council resolution to hold a referendum is lawful, and B, the fact that there is a legal challenge does not affect this position. We'll follow up this advice with a note in writing to be circulated tomorrow after the decision taken on item 17. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chief Executive. I now call Mayor Fias to move the recommendations in the report, please.
Thank you very much, Councillor Joy Laguda. Colleagues, so this report outlines the options on holding a referendum on the Council's model of governance, which the Chief Executive has just confirmed is a lawful determination. Moving this report to hold a referendum on whether to move to an alternative model of governance or retain the mayoral model is a delivery of the manifesto pledge and commitment I made back in May 2018 to do so by the end of my third year in office, and also the Council motion to select an alternative model of governance after receiving and considering the report of the Democracy Commission, which was considered in another place in line with our democratic principles that we as members of a Labour administration and Labour group surely adhere to. It is for full Council to determine which option will be placed on the ballot paper alongside retention of the mayoral model. There are only two alternative governance options. These are the committee model or the leader and cabinet model. After consultation and discussion with member colleagues in a different place, and I know that the seconder of this motion will elaborate on that, I propose to move the committee model to be the alternative model of governance on the referendum ballot paper. And I also move that the referendum should take place on the 6th of May 2021. Due to the COVID-19 restrictions in place, this is the earliest date on which a referendum can be held. This delivers on my promise to give the residents of Newham their say on whether they want to retain the elected mayoral model or change it to a committee system. I move this report, including the recommendation that the referendum is held between the mayoral model of governance and the committee model of governance, and for it to be held on the 6th of May 2021, and commend it to full council for approval following the comments by the seconder of this motion. And I request thereafter that the chair, following some debate, moves to the vote.
Councillor Whitworth, are you seconding the recommendation?
Yes, I am, Chair. Yes, I'm very pleased to be seconding this report, which proposes to end any speculation about the date for the Newham governance referendum, which, as the Mayor has said, will be on the 6th of May 2021, and which is in line with the manifesto commitment. A year ago, I presented a motion to this council which proposed the postponement of the referendum, which was then scheduled for May 2020, because it clashed with the date of the London mayoral election. Now, that change of date was accepted because of the difficulties which would have arisen by holding the two events at the same time. Now, because of the postponement of the London mayoral election because of COVID, these same inconveniences will still apply in May 2021, but there would now be an advantage in holding both elections on the same day if there were still risks to health from the COVID-19 pandemic, as these risks would then be confined to a single occasion. In any case, as the law forbids us from conducting the referendum before this date, and holding it later could bring it uncomfortably close to our 2022 local elections, holding the referendum and the London local elections simultaneously has therefore become the best remaining option. I'm very happy to second this report, which offers our residents the opportunity to choose between the council system of governments, the present system of governance, to the distinctly different committee model, or confirming, it's a question of, as the Mayor has said, confirming the council's existing model of governance, which personally I wouldn't support, or changing to the committee model. By offering our residents this choice, I believe we are moving forward to a new stage in the process of Newham's democratic renewal. Thank you.
Does any member wish to speak?
Islam?
Any member wish to speak?
Islam?
Oh, Councillor Islam?
Chair, thank you very much. I would, Chair and Council, I would effectively want to speak in support of this motion, which is item 17, as primarily I'm very much in favour of the committee model being the other option for the ballot and not the strong leader and cabinet model. I made this statement after careful considerations and deliberations. I took note of the similarities between the strong leader and the cabinet system versus the current mayoral cabinet system. And under both the strong leader and mayoral model, nearly all major council decisions are made by either its leader, mayor, or one of the 9 other cabinet members, in effect excluding the remaining backbench councillors from its key decision-making process. Under both the mayoral and strong leader model, the governance structure is a cabinet system, which applies a hierarchy, whereas with the committee model, all the councillors are more or less on the same level and inclusive within the decision-making process and in a very meaningful way. Under the mayoralty and the strong leader model, the decision-making power lies with a small group of people, its leader and cabinet, while with the committee model, all the councillors take part in the decision-making process. With the mayoral strong leader model, given that it's run under a cabinet system, there is a risk of divisions developing in the council whereby one group has influence over the other whom are not on the cabinet. It leaves those sidelined and left out and not inclusive to the decision-making process. But with the committee model, all the councillors are on an equal footing, inclusive to all decision-making process and are obliged to cooperate. In a nutshell, I resolve to support this, the committee system as the other option going onto the ballot to give the residents a clear and distinct choice between the two distinctive governance models. As the strong leader and cabinet model has effectively the same governance system as that of the mayor model, save the selection of its leader. Now, if the selection is the only reason why some want to support the leader and cabinet system, then I suggest the committee system can mirror that factor by allowing the same selection process. So if people are really in support of another, well, the only other alternative model that can go on the ballot is actually the leader, cabinet, or the committee. And if we're talking about the selecting, it's the selection of the leader, we can address that with the committee model. So what else does this item 17 talks about? It talks about a referendum being offered on the 6th of May 2021, which shall complete the long-awaited pledge.
30 seconds.
All right. So, it will offer a referendum to be held on 6th of May 2021, which shall complete the long-awaited pledge made by the current mayor at the beginning of the tenure. I'm not going to bore people with the details. I mean, I can go on and on. All I'm going to say to my council colleagues, please support this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Islam.
Sure.
Anybody else wants to speak? Very quickly.
Sugar.
Councillor Sugar. And Councillor Dasgupta, that's all.
Can I just, is Councillor Sugar going to speak first?
Yeah, Councillor Sugar, yes.
Councillor Sugar, you may need to consider whether you need to declare an interest in this item before speaking.
Sorry?
You may need to decide whether you need to declare an interest in this item before speaking on it. The address of the Newham Democracy Limited is your home address.
Chair, I would like to withdraw my chance to speak. Thank you for Chair giving my option. Thank you. I decided to withdraw from talking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Sasha Dasgupta.
I would like to. I'd like to speak in support, like my colleagues previously. Councillor Islam has outlined, I think, the democratic reasons why the committee model is suitable for the second option on the ballot. I'd just like to sort of underline that by talking about the options that we're giving to residents, because I think ultimately that's what's really important here. In this referendum, we want to be giving residents an option for redistributing power, and that's ultimately what we do in the council. We hold power, and at the moment, all the power is held within the executive. With the cabinet and leader model, actually all that power is still held in the executive, and what you're doing is reducing the number of people that actually get to elect the leader. So this present model, you have all the residents of Newham participating in the election of the person who holds the executive power. In the cabinet and leader model, you have only the members of the party with the majority. And I think we have to be very careful about how that would look to our residents, how our residents may feel about that. I think that having the committee system on the ballot allows our residents to make a choice about how they wish to be governed, and it gives them real meaningful choice and meaningful opportunity to engage in that, which is why I'd like to speak in support of it.
Thank you. Councillor Mohammed.
Point of order, please, Chair.
Councillor Mohammed.
Chair, I was indicating to the point of order.
Sorry? Point of order, yeah.
Can I put the question be put? This is a really important item. However, we've got a special urgency item at 19 that has got to be passed tonight.
Okay, all right. Only Councillor Mohammed, and that's it. Then we move to the vote. You are muted, Councillor Mohammed.
No, I have nothing to say. Just go to the vote. Sorry.
That's Mohammed Ali.
Mohammed Ali, you got the wrong.
Mohammed Ali, sorry. You are muted. You are still muted.
Oh, all right, Chair. Yeah, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me now?
Yes, just 1 minute. I've got for you.
Right. Yeah. Sure. Thank you, Chair. I do appreciate and our mayor actually, like, she's trying to endeavor to stick to her manifesto promise, and she's trying to deliver, which I do appreciate. And I do agree with my councillor colleagues that I believe that, I have reason to believe that I'm for the community model, is because I feel that the councillors can get more engaged on decision making. At the moment, I feel that the councillors are just for caseworks. So yes, some of our colleagues may say that there'll be a lot of work for councillors. Well, that's fine, because we are councillors to serve our community, and we'll push ourselves a bit more to make things better. And I do agree for the model, the community model, and where I feel that the councillors can be more engaged in decision making, and it's more democratic. So I'm for it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ali. Now I'll move to the vote. Can I have the last, the right of last reply? Madam Mayor, are you doing the last reply?
Chair, can I speak, please?
I'm gonna, sorry, Chair, I'm just gonna move and request that we move straight to the vote. I'm conscious of time.
Can I ask a question, Chair, please?
Chair, I'd like to be able to move straight to the vote, because we've got
Chair,
two agenda items. And Chair, could you kindly, I'm really not able to hear myself, because there's someone else shouting over me, and it's bringing the full council into disrepute. I would like to move to the vote and request that we do, Chair, because we've got other important matters to discuss. Thank you.
Sorry, Councillor Moni Bakad, I didn't see you before. Time is against us. We've got another item to go through, because we have to finish at 9:30. Thank you very much. I'm sorry about that. I didn't see your hand before. Thank you. So now we move to the vote. We'll move to a single vote for recommendation 2.11 to 2.1.4 as amended and outlined by the mover of the motion, as well as recommendation 2.2.1 to 2.2.3, which are for noting. In a few moments, for those joining us on Zoom, the voting options of for, against, or abstain will appear on your screen. You have 30 seconds to vote. And then I'll ask anybody on the telephone. Okay, you have 30 seconds to vote.
There's no one on the telephone. Somebody for the vote, Chair.
The recommendation has been carried. 42 for, 1 against, and 1 abstention. Thank you very much. Item 18, People Power for Newham. I ask the mayor to move the recommendation in the report. You have up to 2 minutes or 3 minutes.
All right, thank you very much, Chair and colleagues. I'll be really quick because I know that there's going to be some remarks by the seconder. But this report is probably one of the most significant following the report that we've just approved previously to hold the referendum. This is true, genuine participatory democracy in action, in motion, People Power for Newham. It sets out a whole raft of proposals to help fulfil a key manifesto pledge that I made, again, similarly, back in 2018 to transform the culture, governance and openness of this council and the way in which we do the business of politics, and to ensure that Newham becomes a beacon of participatory democracy, involving its residents, ensuring that their voices are heard, and to rebuild the trust that had been broken. This report responds to the substantive recommendations of the Democracy and Civic Participation Report, not the internal governance of the council, but specific recommendations that can be commended by the executive. So this report is a recommending to agree that we set up a standing citizen assembly, residents who will play a key role in initiating policy agendas and feeding into both scrutiny and the executive with ideas and suggestions. And this is a complement to the important, vital role that elected members drawn from all sections of our community perform in this council on behalf, in that spirit of public service for our residents. And it's building on the success of the first round of citizen community assemblies. So I commend this report, and subject to the seconder wanting to make remarks, I request through the chair or to the chair, Councillor Joy Laguda, that we move straight to the vote.
Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor McLean.
Yep, I'd like to second this, please. And in the interest of time, I won't say anything. I'd just like to move to the vote, please. Thank you.
People want to move to the vote, but does anybody want to speak very quickly?
We've got 3 items to get through.
No, okay, we'll move to the vote. But I fear you don't want the right of reply, do you? Okay, thank you. We're moving to the vote. 30 seconds to vote. Is Pat voting? How many minutes then?
7 minutes. Chair, 7 minutes.
Yeah, we've got 441 against 3 and abstention 1. The recommendation has been carried. Thank you very much. Item 19, special agency and exemption from calling schedule of decisions. Mayor Fias, please, can you move the recommendation? Only 2 minutes for this, please.
Thank you very much, Chair, Councillor Joy Laguda. So these just similarly in line with the agenda of transparency and good governance that we have initiated since May 2018. This is a regular, as applicable, item that comes to full council to ensure that all members of council are appraised of which decisions have been made and have been made on the basis of special urgency and exemption from calling procedures. And you'll note that one pertains to the Pan London mortuary provision in response to COVID-19 during the lockdown and first wave. And then there was a decision made with regards to one of the contracts, i.e. the council's contract with Royal Mail. So I'm just going to ask that colleagues note the report, and subject to any seconder requirement, just move straight to the vote with no additional comments from me. Thank you very much, Chair. Councillor Joy Laguda.
Okay, Councillor Lofthouse, have you got, can you second?
I will second it. I need to say no more than Mayor said it.
Okay, thank you very much. Does any member wish to speak 1 minute only, or half a minute? Anybody wants to speak?
No.
Thank you. Now we move, do you have a right to reply? He just wants to go to the vote, okay. We'll now move to the vote. Those joining us on Zoom, the voting options are for, against, and abstain will appear on your screen. You have 30 seconds to vote. Finished? Okay. Yes, the recommendations for 42, abstentions against 1 and abstentions 2. The recommendation has been agreed. Thank you. Item 20, appointments. You have to do Speedy Gonzalez here. Item 20. The mayor will be too quick for any appointments they wish to make.
Shall I make mine first?
Yeah.
Very briefly. Okay, the audit committee, Councillor Niloufer Jahan is standing down. She will be replaced by Councillor Harvinder Singh Virdi, who is being appointed. Councillor Niloufer Jahan is also stepping down from overview and scrutiny, as is Councillor Anne Easter. Niloufer Jahan is also stepping down from the education, children and young people scrutiny. There are vacancies there at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Chair, if I may.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you very much. Just quickly, I'd like to announce to colleagues this evening as part of some changes that I will be making, but I'd like to initiate just with regards to executive arrangements. I'd also like to just announce tonight as an initial announcement that I will be appointing Councillor Genevieve Kitchen as Deputy Cabinet Member for working with me, inclusive economy and housing, but specifically focused on community wealth building. And I'm sure everyone will commend her to that role. And in the coming few weeks, I will be making further announcements. Thank you very much.
Okay, congratulations, Councillor Genevieve Kitchen. Okay, is that agreed? Just show your hands. Thank you. You'll be pleased to know that that's the conclusion of meeting. The meeting is now closed. Thank you all very much for your contribution. It was very interesting today.